Hi. It's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies and the host of the Sparkle and Thrive podcast. And I am super excited today to have one of our dream builders and TechPixies, Benita. Hello, Benita. We're so excited that you're here. Now, I apologize. I don't always get everyone's names correctly, so I want to pronounce your name correctly. Could you just...
I am Benita Triffitt. Yes.
Triffitt. There we go. And Benita, we are so delighted because you have been in the TechPixies program, and then you also have done the DreamBuilder program, and we've got another DreamBuilder program launching, and I know that your story is going to be a great one. So tell us, usually your little thing says Benita in Edinburgh with an exclamation point. I'm not used to seeing the whole professional name, but you are in Edinburgh, so you're one of our Scottish TechPixies or Scottish-based TechPixies.
Yeah.
So tell us how you came into the TechPixie world, what you've been doing in TechPixies, and we'll go from there.
I was terrified of social media. I was always on Facebook, and Facebook was great because it was a way of being in contact with friends and family, around the world. And when they moved, if I lost their mobile phone, I could connect. So Facebook was a friend. And I can't remember. I think is it Albert Einstein who said that time exists for everything to happen, not for everything not to happen all at once. Well, for me, that didn't happen. Everything happened at once, where I'd been in a 20-year marriage, and me and my ex-husband decided to call it quits, which I was devastated about. Then we had the pandemic, and I got so lonely. And then I got a diagnosis of, thank goodness, but, primary breast cancer. So I thought, oh my goodness, Albert Einstein was wrong. Things do happen all at once, and time is just not coming into it. So I had all these things happening, but I had Facebook, my friend, and up popped you. So it was a Facebook ad, and it was just sort of like, oh my goodness, where has this come from? This is a glorious message, just saying, join a boot camp, get your skills up. If you want to change career, if you want to get your tech skills, all the things that I just felt that I'd been out of the workplace. I was on my own. I had 2 sons, but my whole world had just completely changed. So I signed up and I did the boot camp, and I loved it. It was so much fun. And literally within day 2, I think it was a 5-day course. And within day 2, social media fear had changed into social media fun. And the whole social media thing for me is just total fun. Total fun. Never worry about compare and despair. Don't worry about, people doing better. Of course, they want to present something watchable. So, that's what it is. It's not, oh, my life is crap and theirs is brilliant, I better stay quiet. So that's where I joined. I joined at boot camp, and then, there was the thought of, I could do this for a whole year. I need a year, to just understand the platforms. So I signed up for I think it's changed names.
It has changed. We now have, just so that it's clear, we now have a social media accelerator, which is just 6 weeks, because we know some people just need that 6-week boost. And then we have the social media management certification, which is 12 weeks. So the 2 programs combined is about 18 weeks. But people have access to the curriculum for a full year, and they can top up and do another round or another accelerator, that sort of thing. So it has changed a little bit since you were in there. We did used to sell a year-long program, and we just found that in this economic environment where the energy prices are going through the roof, where mortgage prices are going up, everything's going up because the interest rates are changing as well. I just thought, right now people need to get skills fast so they can make more money fast. And so we've gone from what was sort of a year-long program back down to what originally was a 90-day program. We've pretty much sort of gone back to that. And you could do the whole thing within 6 weeks for the main certification, and then within probably 18 weeks you could do the actual social media management certification if you want to be a social media manager. But a lot of people just want to get those skills started and get going, and that's what we found. And I think in this environment, I was really inspired. Actually, this is a little bit of a side note, but I think it's important for people who run their own businesses to hear this story. There was a movie about a car guy he made cars, and it was a car that had 3 lights, right? So it was a unique car. No one had ever done it before. And anyway, there's a scene in the movie, and obviously we'll put it in the show notes because I can't remember all the people at the moment or even what it was called. But the guy reminds me a lot of my dad, and which is why I also love film, and my family loves cars. So it's like a lot of things that we love. But anyway, he goes with his family. He has like a really bad day in business, and I think like an investor pulled out or something like that. So he decides he's not going to wallow in his sadness, but he's going to take the whole family to the ice cream shop and like celebrate, sort of almost celebrate the loss, and just try and change the mood. So he gets to the ice cream shop with his family, and he sees a newspaper advert selling something that doesn't exist yet. And he's like, oh, and he gets this idea that I can sell something that doesn't exist, which we know, that's actually a great way to test the market. Do people actually want to buy this if I put it out there as if it's already created? And actually in the course creation world, a lot of people will pre-sell a course before they've even built it and then co-create it with someone, right? And that's been a big change in the course creation world, because it used to be that you create the whole thing and then sell it, but now you co-create it. So anyway, the reason that story is important to me is, as I was thinking about, I really wanted inspiration. Like, what do we do with this economic crisis? Like, how do we handle this economic crisis? Because a lot of businesses are going to go out of business. In fact, one of our major competitors, they never announced it, and they haven't put it publicly, but they have pivoted and changed. And it's sort of under the radar. But I'm watching a lot of companies, a lot of announcements on LinkedIn. My company, I'm folding my company, and I've given it a good go, but I can't, get through this, etc. And I really want to get through this economic crisis. So I was saying, I really want that moment. I want that ice cream moment. I want that moment where you're doing something totally different. You get inspiration to like change things. Now, the irony here, and I know this is totally aside, and we're going to come back to your story in a second, but I think it's a great story. The irony here is that I then took a day out with my family during one of the half-term breaks when sort of the war was bubbling up, like all these things were starting to happen. And guess where we went? We went to the UK like car museum, right? So we go to the car museum, and we're walking around, like my family does love cars. So we're walking around, we're looking at all the cars, and I land on this plaque for Morris Cars. And it's the story of Morris Cars. Now, I live in East Oxford, and Morris Cars were made literally a street away from me.
Isn't it Cowley?
Yes.
Cowley, yeah.
Yes. And I am like attached to Cowley, right? Like I can get to Cowley really quickly. So Morris Cars made in Cowley, unbelievable story. So I watched the video, and I ended up watching it twice. It's a little 15-minute video. And it talks about how when the Depression hit, he created the $100 car. And like 98 of his competitors went out of business. He stayed in business because he created the affordable car. And then when the war hit, he changed and he started creating weapons instead of cars, right? Because that's where the money was at the time. And then he went back to making cars. But he survived 72 years as a business. His business survived 72 years, and he was at the helm of it for 72 years. And what was really interesting was he just adapted. As the economy changed, he just adapted. And so many of the car companies just went out of business during that time. Like 98 car companies went out of business, or 98%. I can't remember the exact numbers. It was a lot of car companies that went out of business. And eventually he got bought by a Chinese company, et cetera. But what was so interesting about that is that was my ice cream moment. I was like, we can't keep doing this year-long program because people can't afford it in this economy, and they don't have the time for it. They need to get the skills now, and they need to be able to make the money now. So that's why we sort of changed it back to this sort of 6-week accelerator, get people going, get their certificates done. And what's ironic, Benita, and you're going to appreciate this, there's people that did the accelerator. We tested it out over the summer. We did a social media summer school, which was basically the groundwork for the social media accelerator. Just wanted to see how it went. And there's people that have been in the other program, the year-long program, for almost even 2 years, because you can renew and do a second year. And they did their certification in those 6 weeks and hadn't done it for those previous 2 years.
Absolutely, absolutely. So right. And I think, the two things that really jump out at me there for me are, how TechPixies just evolves. It just, it doesn't, just react. It responds to what's going on. You can put out a post. I put out a post very early on. I was really sad and down. And I put out a post, and people responded so amazingly well, right at the sort of get-go. And I think it's the same with TechPixies. The way, the courses have evolved, not just because you've got different staff or anything, but because of the needs of, you listen to people, and isn't it, the 7 highly effective people, that guy, Covey, who just says, understand first and then be understood, later. And that's what you do. And I think that's what people should, whoever's sort of thinking of joining the accelerator, is to just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it, dive in, do it. And you with TechPixies will evolve. You're perhaps, if you wanted to sort of, for me, I joined the program that was available to me then, because I wanted to be financially independent. I'm not financially independent now, but I will be. But what I've discovered over the time is that that's the end goal. That's a goal. But all the other elements that have come into play have just been incredible. And
the foundational work you have to do in
Yeah.
order to become financially independent. That's the thing. There is a groundwork that has to be done to get to the place where you are financially independent. And like you said, you're not now, but it's really, you're not yet, right? You're working towards it, and you're laying the groundwork, and you're working towards that vision. Let's talk about the vision, because one of the things that you did, and we offer this to our students, whether they've gone through the program or not, we recognize so much of TechPixies is about the mindset shifts and about the subconscious reprogramming and about the neurocoaching, that actually I decided last year to launch a fully life coaching program. Like, it's just life coaching and neurocoaching. So you did the social media training, you learned how to use social media, you're leveraging social media to launch your business, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you also recognized, I got to do some more life coaching because I have a vision for my life that I want to work through. And so you did our DreamBuilder program, starting with the vision workshop. So let's talk about, because I think it's important, they're 2 totally different programs. One is focused very much on social media and the things that come up as you, from a life coaching perspective, as you do social media: perfectionism, imposter syndrome, compare and despair, those things. The other one is just totally separate from the social media, and it's very focused on what would I love in the 4 areas of my life: in love and relationships, health and well-being, creative career and creative expression, and vocation and creative expression, and time and money freedom. And we do this vision workshop, and we create a vision, and then in the DreamBuilder program, we massage that vision, we stretch that vision, we play with that vision, and we also learn some really incredible things, like how to respond and not react, and we deal with forgiveness, and there's all sorts of other things we deal with. So what was your experience like doing DreamBuilder and the vision that you've been crafting? How important is that for this next phase of your life?
Unbelievably, totally unbelievably. I have never been on a course that I have loved, or a program that I have loved so much. It is just pure cloud, just sitting on a cloud. It was just, I loved it. And it sounds airy-fairy, DreamBuilder. People, solving spaces is to do with interior design and zero net carbon bills. So when I said I was on the DreamBuilder, people thought, oh, she's working with builders, and getting your dream house, and no, it's not that. It could be, but the group of women that you're with, and there may be men in the future, who knows, but the women anyway, you're on this journey, and they've got fantastic dreams. and you're a part of it. And you've got your own dream as well, and you share it. You know, sometimes you feel, initially, before I started, I'd feel a bit silly. You know, somebody's going to think, oh God, really? And, you know, it's not just in vocation, you know, in your career, it's in other aspects of your life. And so therefore you would feel a bit silly, but you are encouraged to do a vision statement, which concentrates on those 4 areas, and write it as if it's happening now. And actually, it really made me smile. I mean, one of my things, you know, I am single. I'm very happy being single, but I had to write about love and relationships. And, you know, what springs to mind is, you know, an intimate, not intimate, you know what I mean, just, you know, a sort of good relationship, you know, a boyfriend, you know, a partner or whatever. And I wrote that, and I know you read it and go through it, and actually it's just really lovely, just actually not having fun with those things that you might have been fearful about, that nothing would change, you know, financial freedom, time management, money management, you know, that kind of thing. I adored it. And you listen to lessons during the week, and then you meet up at the end of the week, and you do exercises that are not, you know, they're not do alive or anything like that. They just encourage you to really dig deep and just think, what do I want? What do I love? You know, and it's that kindness to yourself. And it's not sheer indulgence. It's just totally understanding who you are, you know, and what you want and how you want to be in the world. And along the way, you know, you might have a business idea that you get clarity with, which I did. And there were other girls. I mean, I'm wearing my T-shirt. You can't see it.
Oh,
But this is Northern Brights. You know, they, the 2 gorgeous sisters, Han and Jess. You know, their thing was to work as a, you know, their dream was to work together, set up a business, which they'd started, but they then evolved and got clarity on how they wanted to call it, and how they wanted to incorporate their dad, who they lost 3 years ago, and he's part of it. And you know, I feel privileged that I was part of that journey as well. So it's not just my own journey; it was that. And you know, I've met one of the girls in person, Heine, who is just so funny and so fantastic. So, oh my goodness, Joy, thank you so much for incorporating that as part of the TechPixies, you know, pot of guacamole that you can dip into. It has
the
just
pot of
been
guacamole. I suppose it's different dips, right? DreamBuilder's the guacamole. TechPixies is the melted
exactly.
cheese.
It is, and you know, I'd almost say
You
that
can
do the
choose what
dream
you
build.
want.
I know, but do the dream builders and then do the accelerator. You know, if you want to improve your social media skills because you know, have suffered a loss, you want to change career or you want to get a job, maybe the dream builders first and then go on to the accelerator. And I think you'd really get loads out of the accelerator.
And we've had people do both now. I've had
Yeah,
some people come and do DreamBuilder first, and then they go do the accelerator. That's definitely happened. We've had a couple lovely people do that, and then we've had some people who've done the TechPixies course and then said, oh, you know, the DreamBuilder is exactly what I needed to get clarity on now, what I want to use this for, which I think happened to you. So, you know, it's and like you said, there's lots of options, and it's what's right for you. And you know, we've now got a group of lovely alumni who have done both programs, and they are helping us take calls with people that are thinking about, do I want to join TechPixies and which program is right for me? Because now we've got sort of a suite of programs, not just the one. And so we've said, if you want to book a call with someone, you just go to techpixies.com/book a call, and you can just request a call back. And one of our really beautiful, lovely alumni, just like Benita, will call you and just listen to you and find out where you're at and figure out what works, you know, what's the best program for you, because and what order to do it in, etc. But I also love the fact that so many of our students have come back and done a second program or a third program. And that's really, it's been a blessing to see how the community has supported the company in coming back and doing more, and also that we've been able to develop programs that people want to do more of. So let's just talk about some of the things we go through in DreamBuilder. So one of the things we talk about pretty early on is that sense of deserving, right? That it's not, am I worthy of the dream? It is the dream worthy of me, right? like, is the dream worthy of my time, energy, effort, and money? So if you have a dream to launch a business, or you have a dream to, have a boyfriend or a partner or whatever, is that dream, it's not, am I worthy of that dream? It's, well, do I want to put my time, energy, and effort into making that dream become a reality? Because the dreams that we have come, from us. When we come from the dream, they're already inside us. We just have to really go there and find them. And that's a huge part of it. But that sense of deserving, we also talk about shifting mindset from lack to abundance, really seeing the world as a world of abundance, and understanding that we are part of an abundant universe. And then we also talk about forgiveness, and we also talk about, and we do some meditations on forgiveness and really give some tools. And it's really about tool building for all sorts of different things, responding versus reacting, and just really metacognition, noticing what you're noticing, being aware of your thoughts, how they're impacting your decisions and your results as a result of your actions or inaction. And then really this concept of we're blueprinting the dream, where we're crafting the dream, then we're bridging, which is this kind of bridging the gap between where I am now and where I want to be, and then we're building it. And I think you've moved through the blueprinting and you're sort of in the bridging building phase right now. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, on the career sort of thing, yes, definitely. But as a person, I'm definitely in the building bit. And I think it's like a really good book, and when I got to the end, and I'm not going to do a spoiler, don't worry. When I got to the end and I listened to the last lesson, I thought, I know what the answer is. I know it. And then when they said it, I was going for a walk, and when they said, what it was, I just, this huge, warm, overwhelming feeling of, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. This is now automatic. Because there was a point, Joy, where when I was on the longer program, I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do if I don't have joy in my life? If I don't have the tech pixie, holding my hand, on the roadmap, I won't be able to cope, kind of thing. I need that to sort of know how to do Instagram and how to do this, that, and the other. But by doing the Dream Builder, those tools that I learned on the way are automatic now. And they come out in I hope they come out in my expression of how I respond to things, never getting stressed. And I know people say, it's good to have a bit of stress, of course, but I don't see that as stress. I see that as sort of, performance nerves, that kind of thing, rather than stress. And I've got those tools and they're automatic now. And that is just a wonderful place to be. So yeah, I do, I want to give back to TechPixies in a way now, rather than, oh my gosh, please don't leave, don't stop holding my hand, and just be involved and respond to posts and, my many star pods that I've been, which are groups who help you with accountability, and you meet up in your own sort of time on Zoom, and it's up to you to keep it going. And many of us do. There are lots of different things. Sophie Rose Simmons, I was on a star pod at the very, very beginning with her. Look at her now and listen to her track that she played. She's a musician, so
yes, and we're filming this on the 7th of September, and her first single releases on the 9th. And it's very exciting, and that's just it. And we've interviewed Sophie, so we'll put the link to her interview in the show notes, where she sings a little bit of the Tech Pixie anthem, which she wrote for us, which I just absolutely love. But that's just it. You meet people, and then you see them as they become who they are, and that's the bottom line is, you blueprint for your vision, you bridge towards it. Mentally you bridge towards it. Where am I now? Where do I want to be? And mentally keep focused on where you want to be. You start building it, right? But at the end of the day, it's who you become in the process. It's, as I'm doing this, who am I becoming? And that, notice what you're noticing, and having all of these tools. And like you said, I'm not nervous, I'm strong, and I can see that as performance. It's that performance thing. I said to my kids, like, being excited and nervous is the same thing. You just have to choose, do I want to be excited or do I want to be nervous? And they're the same emotions, same chemical reactions. So we have control over how we think. And until we realize that, we don't have control, right? And I think that's
really true. And what's going on, knowing what's going on inside of you, if you're hanging out in the fear part of your being, then you'll never make a decision. Nobody makes decisions on fear. No child learns if they're fearful. So having an overbearing teacher who's you're frightened of punishment, they're not going to learn in that sort of atmosphere either. So if you can elevate yourself from the fear and just this is a concept I read the other day. I think it's called the silver technique, and it was just really and just fear at the bottom, data, which is information and learning, and then emotion, which my ex-partner just said, oh, you're too emotional. But actually emotion is required to make every single decision. It's the final thing that makes you make that decision. Which car are we going to get? I really like the Mini, I really like the Citroen. They're both exactly the same, but I like the blue. I like the blue. So there's the emotion bit, the blue. It's an almost nonsense element, but it's the one that makes you make that decision. So emotion is important, and recognizing it as being important. So getting in the sweet spot, which is above the fear, and going in between the data and the emotion, is the best place to be in order to to make decisions and so on. And I can't remember why I decided I wanted to tell you that, other than I learned it while I was on your journey.
I love it, but it's so important. What you've just said is really great, and it's such a great explanation of why emotion is important. I mean, when in both of the programs, the main programs that we run, and we have more than just two now, but in the accelerator and also in DreamBuilder, we introduce this concept of brain priming. And it's really this idea that there's a situation that you're facing, and you have thoughts and emotions around that situation. And the thoughts and emotions repeated over and over again create a belief system. And we make our decisions out of that belief system. So exactly what you're saying is very important. Your thoughts create emotions, right? And you're talking about going between the data and the emotion. The thing is one of the ways you can get yourself to do something is to actually ramp up the emotion, right? And in the De Silva technique, one of the things they teach you is actually to ramp up the discomfort so that you take action, right? It's an interesting, instead of spending a lot of time in what I would love, it's almost like, what don't I love, so that I stop doing it, right? If you can almost turn up the emotion that comes with not doing the thing that you want to do in life, and what that would actually do for you. Like, if you decide you're going to stop eating dinner and just eat Ben and Jerry's every night, that, like, I'm not going to have chicken ever again, and I'm only going to eat Ben and Jerry's, that's going to have a life impact on you. So what the point is in the De Silva technique, you're going to sit there and you're going to go, let's imagine I ate Ben and Jerry's every night for dinner for the rest of my life, what that would do to my life and how bad I would feel. Like, it's a great treat every once in a while, but it's not a food replacement for a meal, right? Mm-hmm. So you turn up, I mean, this is a really bad example, but you turn up the volume on how awful you would feel. It might, the momentary satisfaction of it, but the long-term nutrition deficit it's going to cause. Or let's take something that's not food. Let's take working late at night. That was a problem I had for a very, very long time, and occasionally you will still find me working late at night, but it used to be habitual for me. Yeah. And it wasn't until I read books on the impact of sleep on performance, and basically if you're working at 3 a.m, it's the equivalent of being drunk. I mean, it's the same. The what's happening in your brain is very similar to being drunk, right? Which is why it's not advisable that you drive through the night, right? Because it's dangerous. So it's that concept that if you know the science, right, of sleep deprivation, and there's some incredible books out there. Arianna Huffington has one, I think, called Sleep. I only had to read about half of it, and I was like, I don't need to read any more of this. I got to start sleeping. But the point is that was one of my problems. One of my problems was I was working really, really late at night till 2, 3, 4 in the morning every night, because that's when the house was quiet and everyone was asleep. And I hadn't planned my day properly in order to accommodate for that kind of work. And once I read the books, I had the pain and the facts. Like, if I don't start sleeping, I'm going to open myself up to all sorts of problems later on in my life. Yeah. Right. Memory problems and cognitive problems. And also now being a student of the brain, it was, not good. So the De Silva technique and that concept of let's turn up the pain a little bit, right? Let's turn up the emotion a little bit around the pain. That really helps, because you go, all right, I actually want to be able to function in 3 decades from now. And what happens now matters. So, what we put in our bodies, the sleep we get, et cetera, those matter. And same thing with exercise. You decide, well, what would happen if I never exercised again, right? And what is that going to do to my mobility? If we can go 20 years from now, if I decide I'm going to stop doing any exercise and I'm just going to sit on the couch for the rest of my life, and we can make this extreme, right? But if you were to think about the mobility issues that would come from not moving by
and
deciding
on you, but on other people, the emergency services, having to call a special ambulance, it's not just on you. It's a much broader, thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's the ability to play with emotions in a positive way, to say, right, if I were to eat Ben & Jerry's every night and I were to not sleep at all, and I was to stop exercising, how painful would my life become? And knowing that pain is something you don't want to do could be the motivator that says, right, I'm going to go make a chicken dinner, I'm going to go to bed at 10, and I'm getting up to run in the morning, right? The other side of the emotion, if from the pain of the emotion, is what would it feel like to finish to cross the finish line at a half marathon? What would it feel like to do a 5K? What would it feel like to have the most amazing nutritional dinner, right? What would it feel? Because we all know what it feels like. I do love Ben & Jerry's. But I will say, when I did my very first launch, I have told this story before, but it's been a long time. When I did my very first launch, which was the very first online cohort of TechPixies, and I think it was cohort 14 is the very first cohort we did online. We don't do cohorts anymore. But I did the launch, and I literally sat down and ate an entire tub of cookie dough ice cream. And it felt great as I was eating it. And then afterwards, I felt awful, right? And I felt really, really awful afterwards. And I know that about myself with ice cream. Like because I also have a dairy intolerance, so it's not a good idea. It's like a double whammy. So I know I can have like one and I'm fine. One scoop, not a tub, but I can have a scoop. But the thing that's so interesting about this, and I know we have a point here. There is a point here. But the thing that's so interesting about it is that these memories that we have, these memories of emotions, and they're very important, and we have to play with them, and we have to leverage them to help us make change in our life, right? If we don't want to do something, we have to leverage them to stop doing it. And if we want to start doing something, we have to leverage them to start doing it. And, on the other hand, I've also had, the most amazing, I went to a dinner recently with some friends, and I ended up going for the veggie meal because I'd never tried it before. And it was the most beautiful plate of all of these colors. And, and I ate it, and afterwards I was like, I feel amazing. Versus the Ben & Jerry's. So anyway, I know this isn't supposed to be a discussion around food, but of course, one of the things that comes up in DreamBuilder is health and well-being. And we have to think about that. And so, on the one hand, you can use the emotions of what I don't want in order to fire you up to make it change, which is very much the De Silva method. And then you have this sort of DreamBuilder method, which is let's create the motion of everything we do want and get in alignment with that, and every day work towards it. And they're both valuable in their own ways, depending on what you're trying to do, and also depending on how different people are motivated, right? Not everyone's motivated the same way. People need different ways of looking at things. That's why there's so many different life coaching programs out there. That's why there's so many different neuro coaching programs out there. And it's really because everyone deals with things differently, and one thing's going to resonate with one person is not going to resonate with another person. So you have to find a program that resonates with you. But we do spend a lot of time at DreamBuilder going, what would I love? And what would that feel like? And I have, this, I've got my straw hat joy.
Ah,
right?
white bikini, straw hat, joy. Yeah.
White bikini, straw hat, joy.
And you know what, Joy? I've even started visualizing that, which is like, I don't, but you know, so I think white bikini, straw hat, joy. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and white bikini, straw hat, joy is like this amazingly, healthy woman who's happy. She's healthy and wealthy in every aspect of life. Family, love, income. Health, physically. And it's just this. And I love hanging out with her because the thing she tells me every time I hang out with Straw Hat Joy is, it's all going to work out. It's all going to be okay. And that's the vibrational tone I love. And whenever I get into a place where I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work out, I try very quickly to hang out with Straw Hat Joy because she just says, don't, it's all going to work out. And she doesn't say, don't worry. She says, it's all going to work out. It's all good. Because even those little words that we say, oh, no worries, no problem, we learn we have to get rid of those. We have to say, my pleasure, all good, and shift the conversation. It's very, very important. But we have two major tools that we can use to change our lives. The first one is our thought. The second one is our emotion. And our thought very often leads to the emotion. Sometimes the emotion leads to the thought. But if we can get a handle of one of the two of those, we can really change things. And
exactly. One of the universal things that on all the programs, and I learned it through Dream Builders, is that, our thoughts affect our emotions, which affects our actions. So if we're always finding ourselves thinking negatively, or I'm not good enough, well, then it will reflect in our actions. We will be looking, our brain will be looking for things to reinforce that fact. So
yes.
stop doing that, because that's not the cuddle you deserve, and that on the Dream Builder just really strongly reminds you that you must, if you should recognize when you're on a low energy, and I don't mean low energy as in falling asleep, but low energy as in negativity. It's not going to work out. I'm a failure. I can't do this. And you recognize when that's happening, and then quickly get yourself back up into the high energy one, which would be Straw Hat Joy saying, it's going to be okay. You can do that. And the quicker you learn that tool, the happier, and the more, the more things happen. The more things happen in a really positive way. The other thing I wanted to say as well about TechPixies is and Dream Builders is the books. You suggest books, and I'm not a fantastic reader. I realized when my son was diagnosed with mild dyslexia and would get reading fatigue that was me. So audible, being able to listen to books and do two things at once, which normally we wouldn't say multitask, we're brilliant. That's not true. You focus on one task, but you can go for a walk and you can listen to a book, which for me ticks the box of I'm multitasking. And the books that you have recommended, or other TechPixies have recommended, have just been great. But fundamentally, all the ones that talk about how to improve your life are, say, you produce, you design things twice, don't you? First in thought and then in form. And it's so true. It's so true. So what you think is what you will create. So think of something good, because you want to create something good. So
absolutely. And where your attention goes, your energy flows, and we say that all the time. So Benita, I love it. I've really enjoyed spending time with you. I mean, I've been so lucky. I mean, I love doing alumni interviews because I love hearing where people are at. And the most important thing to me is you are on this journey to where you want to be, and you're doing it with power and with strength, and you will get there. And I know you will. And that's the fun part, is that you're on your way. And now you can be a mentor to those who are coming through the programs. And I love that.
Yeah.
So if people want to find out about Solving Spaces, where do they go?
Well, you can go to my Instagram. I've got, not a great deal is happening. Well, yet I'm doing lots of things. I'm signed up to do a BTEC HNC in interior design. So, you know, that's my love of learning. I wanted to get I've got a degree somewhere else, but it's not relevant to what I want to be doing now. So go to my Instagram, which is solving_spaces. And what I love is you don't have to spend a huge amount of money on your home. It's just like subtle changes. Because your home is somewhere, and I'm half Scandinavian, I'm half Norwegian, and home is really important. You know, there are many words that you've heard in the last few years, you know, the Danish, which is hygge, which, you know, means, you know, intimate moment. And then you've got the Norwegian, which is koselig, you know, cozy. And in your home, where you recharge, you should be at your best. So solving spaces is all about your home, you in it, and how you make it your best. And I showcase what I'm doing in my home at the moment, and I love it. A home is really...
I love it too. Well, I want people to go check you out if they want to learn all about what you're doing. And thank you for your energy, your spirit, and for being just a stellar tech pixie. And I hope you have encouraged some people to take the plunge and do the DreamBuilder program, because I think it really is a very great follow-on program to TechPixies, or as you said, it can be a really great precursor. And we'll be starting a new cohort at the end of September, depending on when you're listening to this. We're filming it 7th of September, 2022. So we'll be doing a new cohort then. And thanks again, Benita. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic day. And thank you to those of you watching and listening as well. I hope you also have a wonderful day.
Thank you.